It is uncommon for a rookie quarterback to make his first start in late December on a team that's still fighting for a playoff spot when the recent starter has not been injured. But that's exactly what happened with the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday. And Michael Penix, the number 8 pick in April's NFL draft, followed through with a solid performance in the Falcons' 34-7 rout against the New York Giants at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Penix was 18 of 27 for 202 yards with 1 interception, which wasn't his fault. And I'm glad they said that, because that interception definitely wasn't his fault, but we'll get into that. The Falcons had 22 first downs, 10 of which came through the air. They were 8 of 14 in third down efficiency and 2 of 4 in the red zone, where they had struggled under former starter quarterback Kirk Cousins in the recent weeks. Falcons head coach Raheem Morris went on to say he went out and played almost flawless football and kept the game really clean and kept everything clean for us in order for us to get this win. Now, when it comes to that interception, it definitely wasn't his fault. If you guys watched the game, you would have saw, I don't know what Kyle Pitts had going on. Maybe it was because of the fact that we was running out of time or whatever the case may be, and he thought, no timeouts, I'm not finna make the touchdown. I might as well just try to throw the ball in the air or whatever the case may be to stop the clock and potentially get a field goal out of this. But unfortunately, he threw the ball into a defender's hand. I don't know why. I mean, just don't catch the ball, if anything. But because of that, that is the reason why Michael Penix got an interception against the New York Giants, in which, like I said, it wasn't his fault. But looking at it all, Michael Penix had a good game. Okay, I know it was against the New York Giants. I know a lot of people gonna downplay it because we was playing against the New York Giants. And even though it was the New York Giants, I still feel like this is a lot of pressure that was on Penix. You get what I'm saying? Considering the fact that he is on a team that has the chance to make the playoffs, and not only make the playoffs, because as of right now, because of the Buccaneers lost to the Cowboys, they are at the top of the NFC South. So if the Falcons continue to win, if they just win out for the rest of the season, being the fact that we did beat the Buccaneers twice and we might have the same record, the Falcons will make it to the playoffs. And not only that, they will get home field advantage for the very first game in the playoffs. But when you compare him to the other starter rookies in their first game, their debut, he did a lot better than mostly all of them. Looking at Michael Penix, he won his very first game. Okay, this was his debut, in which he was 18 for 27 for 202 yards, in which he averaged 7.6 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, in which, like I said, we all seen it, that interception wasn't his fault. Let's go to Bo Nix, in which he lost his first game. All right, he was 26 for 42, in which he had 132 yards, in which he was averaging 3.3 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. All right, let's go on to my boy Jaden Daniels, in which he lost his first game. All right, he was 17 for 24 for 184 yards, in which he averaged 7.7 yards. That's very impressive. That's good. 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Now, I will say this, okay? I will give Jaden Daniels a little leeway. I think he had a better debut, considering the fact that he also had 88 yards. I think he had 16 rushes for 88 yards and a total of 2 touchdowns. So, you know, I can kind of say Jaden Daniels had the best. But looking at the fact that the Falcons had 2 pick sixes, okay? So that's 14 unanswered points, in which, you know, that kind of pulled away from Penix, and then that made the Falcons rely more on their rushing game. So ain't no telling what would have happened if the game was a little bit closer than what it was going into the second half. But, you know, at the end of the day, it is what it is. Now let's look at Caleb Williams, in which he won his very first game in his debut. He was 14 for 29 for 93 yards, in which he averaged 3.2 yards with 0 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. So for me, even though his debut game was against the New York Giants, in which they only got 2 wins, he still looked more impressive than most of the quarterbacks, well, most of the rookie quarterbacks that had their debut. And not only that, he's doing it at a time to where it's a lot of pressure on him, considering the fact that he still could be the one to determine if the Falcons go to the playoffs or not. When you go to the very beginning of the season, it's not that much pressure on you. That is the time to make big mistakes. You get what I'm saying? Because it's not a lot of pressure on you. You can learn from it, grow from it, and do better later on in the season. So I got to tilt my hat to Michael Penix. Great game, bro. You deserve it. Now that we see that Michael Penix's position is promising, What are we going to do with Kirk Cousins? Kirk Cousins' divorce from the Falcons is expected to be finalized before his $10 million roster bonus is due March 17th, with executives across the NFL fully expecting Atlanta to release him by then. The split between Cousins and the Falcons is inevitable at this point, according to multiple sources. Front office executives observing the situation have pointed out that due to the no trade clause in Cousins' contract, he now has all leverage. And nobody believes he will do any favors for a Falcons team that surprised him on draft night by selecting another quarterback, Michael Penix, in the first round, then benched him this week in favor of the rookie. Thus, there is now a widespread expectation across the league that the Falcons will not be able to trade Cousins and will have to release him before March 17th, when his $10 million roster bonus for the 2026 season comes due. There is no need for the Falcons to absorb any more costs for a quarterback whom they have paid $90 million for 14 games. $90 million. In 14 games, that man has collected $90 million. Therefore, for the second straight offseason, Cousins is expected to become a free agent, able to choose the team and situation he believes will be best for him. A Falcons official told ESPN on Saturday morning that it was too early to determine whether the organization would release Cousins. The official added that Penix's relatively low salary cap number for 2025, which is $5.2 million, gives the Falcons the financial flexibility to potentially keep Cousins. Now, even though they're doing all this small talk about Penix and his salary or whatever the case may be, and that may be the reason why they'll be able to keep Cousins, I really don't think they're going to keep him. To be honest with you, my biggest question is, why did you get him in the first place? I mean, maybe it was already solidified that the Falcons was going to draft a quarterback if there was a quarterback available in the draft. And maybe Kirk Cousins was there just to help guide Penix or whatever the case may be and help get him prepared for the NFL. But at the same time, why would you give him that much money? Over $100 million guaranteed. That makes no sense to me, man. But all in all, what's said is done. Is in the past. Michael Penix is looking like a promising quarterback in which he may have a bright future ahead of him. And like I said, it's a lot riding on this young man. You know what I'm saying? And if he's able to prevail, and if he's able to get them to the playoffs, you can only imagine the amount of confidence this young man gonna have. Whether they win in the first game of the playoffs or not, going into the next season, oh my goodness. I can't wait to see it. I really can't wait to see it. Because at the end of the day, I really don't feel like there's been a rookie that had this much pressure relying on them to get his team to the finish line and into the playoffs. So, hey, man, Michael Penix, go out there, do your thing, man. I support you.